documentaries go so far. Like, he's climbing up the mountain to get to the top of the volcano, and it's a hard hike, and there is a sulfur in the air. He's like, I can feel the sulfur burning my lungs, and then like some like fucking tourist blast past him, and I'm like,
I've got fanny pack on. It's like,
I'm like, dude, you know.
Hello and welcome to the Pens and Pixels podcast, episode 53. 4?
In a row.
No, 4. 54. Episode 54. Yeah, scratch that, whatever. I'm your host, Cal G, and to my left is the coordinator extraordinaire.
Mike Kent.
Podcast is the place to come to if you want to hear about the art and news of video games, comics, and movies that week. But not this week.
No.
This week, we're taking to celebrate all of 2016 in gaming. Yeah. We're going to be going down our best ofs. Our best list of the games we played this year, what we feel is our personal Pens and Pixels podcast award winners.
Yeah, our favorites from 2016.
Yeah, and then, we're not some official outlet. We don't review games. We don't give them 8 out of 10, 8.5, 8.35.
Although we might be passing around a few trophies to some people.
We may be. And then after the break, we're going to be going down the most anticipated games of 2017, looking at the year ahead, seeing what's out there. Mm-hmm. So, Mike, do you want me to kick it off?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to be doing top 3, I believe.
Or 4, yeah.
Or 4? Okay, let's go down.
Maybe, whatever.
I would like to give some thanks for a game that didn't get a lot of love, but I had a lot of fun with. Quantum Break.
Oh.
I played Quantum Break.
Yeah.
Quantum Break came out this year, people.
I forgot.
Yeah, it came out.
Poor Sean Ashmore.
Yeah, poor Sean Ashmore.
Yeah.
Can anything he do become successful?
Yeah.
He has X-Men 2 under his belt, I guess.
Right? He's always just just under, just if there's A-list, he's just constantly reaching for it and just went.
He almost attained it.
It's like on a trampoline and he's slowly trying to bounce for it because he always goes right down to the bottom afterwards. And everyone's like, oh, that was a miss. And then, boing.
Right back up. And, when you're working
Not even close.
When you're working with a big production studio like Remedy Games, and you're doing all this mocap, and you're seeing the results on screen, the game is beautiful, if nothing else, right?
Oh, it is.
And, you're seeing all this live action stuff being done. I'm sure he was impressed with that. I thought that, and I don't know how much he knows about video games, but if you were even, slightly on the outside of it, you'd probably be like, wow, this is
he knew very
really
little.
Incredible.
Because when he did that, or did you ever watch it on Nerdist? He did a playthrough as an interview on Nerdist with, I forget the name of their game guy, and Malik, I think. Mm. And he's playing the game while Sean Ashmore's next to him, and the guy would get stuck on stuff, and he'd be like, so I'm supposed to go over here, and he'd be like, yeah. And it wasn't supposed to go that way at all. like he knew nothing about the game. It was very clear that he hasn't played it through at all. And I'm like, you mocap the scene. You gotta have a context.
He probably doesn't remember. He probably did so much shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would imagine, even looking at it from the outside, you look at it and go, this is very impressive. This must be a great game. And then maybe he looks at the reviews for it, and it's all 6s. And not a lot of people being mediocre reactions.
X-Men.
Yeah.
I give it an X-Men out of 10.
Iceman fails to shine. And he's like, oh. They don't even refer to him as a real name.
Yeah.
He's just reading all those fucking reviews. So that game got a lot of middling reviews, but I personally didn't understand. Because I thought the story was, as you know, if you're a listener to this podcast, I do not. I give video games a fucking 20-minute window to catch me with their story. And otherwise I'm not listening. I'm putting on a podcast. I don't care. I will zone out. If your game's fun enough, I'll play it for the mechanics, not the story. Yeah. Generally. And this game hooked me. Time travel story, always kind of cool, right? Mm. Playing with time stuff. It was intriguing enough to go to the end. I obviously skipped the 25-minute live action episodes in between because they didn't focus on what was happening in the main story. It was remember that guard in chapter 2? Here's what happened to him. You're I don't give any fucks. He's very inconsequential.
Well, hire A-list TV actors to fill these in as well.
Yeah, it was
just to pad the budget.
There was a lot of good actors in there, and I feel bad for what happened to them because they were gonna have a TV series on Sci-Fi or something, and that all got canned because Microsoft canned their whole planned TV expansion thing.
They were very afraid of it.
Yeah, so they were they buckled back and everything got kind of shoved into the game, and I think the game was worse for it technically. I skipped it; it didn't matter. But the story itself was cool. I liked it. I enjoyed the characters. But it was really the gameplay that was really hooking me because you got all these time powers that you were and they're constantly cooling down so quickly. You can use them in tandem very well. You're never supposed to be still during combat. You're always supposed to be speeding around like the Flash, right? You put on these barriers and walking through them and getting to the next point. And it was just very kinetic, I guess that's the right word, right? Kinetic and frantic, and it was a lot of fun. And I just don't understand. And again, I don't want to say anyone was playing the game wrong, but I did see a lot of people playing that game just like it was Gears of War. Like, I'm going to get behind cover and I'm going to shoot, and you die very quickly in that game because they're trying to encourage you to move.
Yeah.
And they would do it, they would, speed to another cover and then try to get into cover and shoot and just play it like Gears of War. And I was like, that's... Like, and I know maybe it's a failure of the game design to not communicate that perfectly well, but like, because I was abusing the power so much, that's how I had so much fun with the game. And they kept throwing you into harder and harder arenas with like big guys and small guys and like people coming at from different directions, and I had a lot of fun. I think it deserves more respect than it got, really. And I just wanted to give it a shout out here.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get a chance to play it, so I can't really rhyme off of it very much, because it was an Xbox only release.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with what I saw, and I was impressed with a lot of like the work that went into it. I thought there were some big ideas that missed. Like, it was like, because we just got off of PSX and the Game Awards, and we saw that mocap stuff for Death Stranding and for Last of Us, and they're doing basically what, what's the fucking game called again?
It's called Quantum Break.
Quantum Break. Quantum Break was trying to do was kind of do that same thing with like the mocap and the cool actor and the whole thing. I think their team been missing a few things and some proper planning, and it would have pushed it a little further, but...
Yeah, I feel like something happened during development with that TV show, and it kind of threw them into like a loop where they're like, fuck, now what are we gonna do with all this footage?
Yeah. And
then maybe they shouldn't have used it, or maybe they shouldn't have like tailored such the story around it. I don't know.
Maybe they should have like tried to not work with that and could have spent time on developing portions of the game that didn't make it in.
Yeah, not a perfect game. I to myself, I've been rating these games like silently, like as I go through them all year, and I gave Quantum Break a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's right where it stands. Like, I think it was good. It was a lot of fun, but it didn't deserve like the lukewarm reception I got.
Yeah.
Hello, little dog.
All right. Well, then we'll go on to my next one, which is kind of on my what is that game called?
Quantum Break.
Quantum Break.
Jesus Christ!
Every time I hear it,
said it like 5 times in the same sentence, and like that's how forgettable this game is, people.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. It's out of phase with time; it shifts out of my brain. That's it. My Quantum Break is my God, it was slipping out of my head as I was saying it.
My Quantum Wreck? What was it?
My Quantum Break, in the same way that it was undersung, not nearly as good as like well done of a game.
But Quaker Blade. That's what it's called. No, sorry.
But mine was that I actually got, like you did, like a huge kick out of it, and I got a huge kick out of mine was Mirror's Edge 2.
Oh yeah.
Again, like that came out.
They did.
Yeah. And
I feel so bad for them.
I do. Like, it was a massive team, and it just didn't feel like they put a lot of effort into the game. But what they did do was massage out what made Mirror's Edge 1 into such a huge cult hit really well into this. The parkour finally did feel a lot more natural, although I didn't feel like I was quite as high running or like wall running as I was in the first one. I really kind of wish I was doing some more like really cool flippy air stuff and all that. But all that being said, the combat was amazing. I loved like wall running and then kicking someone sideways and then like grabbing the other one and booting him into the other.
I only played the demo, but I really liked the running towards someone and having to choose the direction you're going to kick them. Yeah. Like, I was really like neat.
Yeah, there was lots of kind of stuff like that and different attacks and different slide attacks and stuff. It made it a lot more fun, and the combat was very motion based and very much about the movements, and it was really good for that. But what this Mirror's Edge did that the other one didn't ever really quite truly honestly achieve with me is a sense of tension and being absorbed into the environment. I mean, falling and dying in that game just always sucked because it always did this like slow fall to you picking up pace as you gain terminal velocity to fall towards whatever you were falling for. But in this one, there were so many moments where you're like on this tiny thing over top of some giant chasm and your asshole just goes clang.
Yeah, I remember you saying that, yeah.
And you're just like, okay. And I've got cold sweats going and I'm like, I've got to push the button to go forward because it's what you're supposed to do. And you fuck up and you fall and you're like, fuck, and I gotta do it again. And like it kind of culminates into one really good strong moment in the game as the best, not the only one, but the best one. And the example is the final run. You're going up the biggest tower in the entire city, which is the big evil corporate tower. And it's this beautiful, perfect place, right? And it's all these like floating gardens of all this pouring water, while the rest of the city's obviously having trouble with water and storage and grass and et cetera, blah blah. but it's all this glass flooring. But as you set this bomb off, like the glass behind you is cracking as you're like booking it up these glass platforms as they crack along as the bomb causes more of the glass tower to keep shattering as it moves up the tower. Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
It was really cool, and you're trying to keep ahead of that, and then like you get up to a certain final part of the end of it, and this like building has this giant fan, which is probably the size of like the Empire State Building on its own, in the center of it, and it spins, and its wind is the power for the building. You have to like latch on with your hook, and it drags you and whips you and tosses you into the air up half of the building, and you land at the top, and it's like what is it, like Wile E. Coyote when he lands on something and he wasn't expecting it, you're like huh? You're like, I made it here, I'm not dead, you know? And you're just on 2 feet and you're like, whoa. And then the big moment for it is you're finally at the very, very top of this tower, highest thing, and there's 2 of them right next to each other. And you're like, okay, made it to the top. And they're like, nope, you're supposed to have been in the other tower. And they're like, but there's a wire between the 2, about the size of your foot. Cross.
Can you do it?
Yeah. And like when I was up there and I was finally done with all the running and the tension and all the pace and all of the like climbing, and I'm just like, oh, at the top, nothing else is breaking. I'm okay. They're like, just walk this thing, and I'm just like, and I literally I put the controller down and I like, you know, I stepped aside. I took a moment. I was like, okay, cold sweats, get rid of those, get back, sit down. Like that tension I haven't had like being drawn into a game like that in a long time, and I really appreciated that component of it.
So what do you think held it back?
It felt like they, you know what it felt like? For some reason, the credit list was longer than like the credit list for the fucking Witcher. Like it was huge, massive. It went for twice as long as any game I've ever played. Right? I think all those people just got assigned to the game, and they all like sneezed on it to like pass a day and have a vacation at work for a year or something. Because like.
It's a shame because
they built the core and then they just kind of all stopped. Like you have all these, it's supposed to be this sleek and clean environment and world, right? I get that part, but at the end of the day, it was just a white cube for some of the buildings and shit. Like,
yeah, it's the weird thing is it seemed like Mirror's Edge 1 was a big passion project for them, and it didn't do quite as well as they wanted, and it seemed like a sequel was not going to happen for a long time. Then it finally got announced, and it seemed like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be their passion project again. They're finally getting to make like the next gen version of Mirror's Edge, and it's so disappointing that it hit with like such a wet fart, you know, of a response. Like no one's really talking about it now. It wasn't up for any awards. Like no one, you know.
You could actually say that that's the thing. Maybe it was a passion project. Maybe that giant list of people, it was just a project that was passed around EA to people who had spare time to work on it, and they all tossed in whatever they could, trying to make it into whatever it was. It's just, it was missing that last little component of polish. To make things just a little bit more organic, a little bit more flowing, the world's a little bit better. I loved the new story, and finally finding out the world's this post-apocalyptic desert place, and these big towns were built by this mysterious corporation that tried to create the last bastions of humanity, and now they're all being like abused by, you know, companies that are inside, and you're about, the runners are all about freedom and getting away from this corporate, like, you know, like running of your world and all that shit. I liked that story. I wanted more of that, but it just... Every time the game picked up pace and started getting itself a flow and a step, there were so many things that would break it. Either it would just be like the running, suddenly this area was not mapped out correctly, and there was lots of like stopping you from just making a good solid booking run across something, or you know, you get into a view and it's really pretty, but then you turn left and suddenly you just realize that it's all just a bunch of cubes literally in the distance, and that's all like you're looking at, and it's not actually all that amazing.
It doesn't feel like the real world.
Yeah. Right? It's like so many times these things came in and it just felt like someone else got their hands into a component of it, and then the other half just got ignored. So that was the problem with the game. If it was complete, it would have been an amazing, amazing game. But I still got that thing that you never get out of most games nowadays as often as you used to get in some like more classic games, where you're like, your ass is clenched tight and you're just like play, you know.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like there's merit to that game. I'm glad we both enjoyed like a relatively B-tier game this year, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and that there was something to be enjoyed of it, because I hate only enjoying the top, you know, like 10 game of the year games and thinking those are the only games that are any good and they're going to give me that enjoyment. Like, we're getting spoiled to that point.
Yeah.
I like going and being able to play, because I like indie games, but they never, unless they're like really rare fancy ones, like one of the ones on my list, they never like resonate inside and stick with you forever. Because they're not quite as they don't have a team and the polish and the writers, right? But for those B games like Mirror's Edge and
Quantum Break.
Quicker
Hellblade. Yeah.
Oh my god, I cannot remember that name. I can't. I like the fact that we got to enjoy games like that this
Absolutely.
year.
Absolutely. Okay, so this next one we can both rap about a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the next one on my list is Firewatch.
Oh, it's the second on my list.
There you go.
Okay.
Firewatch was a game. Again, I feel like people were very hot on it when it came out, and it got a lot of good reception. And then as the years gone on, I've been hearing more and more people like talk about it, not negatively, but more of like, oh, Firewatch, like kind of.
Oh no, it just got really. It got into that game as art thing where everyone's like, oh, it's not really art. How do you know what art is? You know, like that discussion started popping up. Like, it's not as deep as you think it is.
Yeah, maybe
because everyone wants to deflate someone who's getting into something. Like, how can you enjoy something that much? In gaming, it's always the way, right? Some kid comes along and goes, Final Fantasy is my favorite series. It's just full of freaking RPG, Japanese boys and stupid shit that's not as deep and important as fucking whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it, like, shuts down this little kid's, like, favorite thing. They're allowed to like that the most, right? Firewatch was one of those things that resonated with a lot of people, and everyone's like, no, you can't like that stuff because that's not liking real games.
Yeah, Firewatch was something me and Mike played like concurrently. One of the very few things we played concurrently together. It was a spoiler cast, and we haven't done that about very many games.
No.
And it had, very simple storyline. Not even a storyline so much as just a relationship between two people explored via, like, a summer. Yeah. Something you don't see in games a lot, right? Like...
Well, I mean, like Life is Strange and a few others have done something similar.
Sure, yeah. Life is Strange is a lot more like Mass Effect-y in the way that like you choose your conversation and like in dialogue wheels, and there's a lot of different branching paths. This was very much like I heard Greg Miller just like say it was like a coloring book where the end picture is always the same. You color it the way you want, and that was how it was, right? You were Henry, and you could be standoffish with Delilah, or you could be super into what she was saying. You could be flirty. You could be, there's a lot of different moments.
Yeah, and it changes the context of the story in between slightly, right? Like being flirty with her makes you almost a grosser human being, But then that's maybe the story that you're playing out because you know the whole thing behind your wife and all of her problems, and then why you're there. And...
I thought there was this really simple but effective start to that game where you just kind of filled in Henry's backstory.
Yeah, and it's always
it wasn't playing anything. It was just like. You read this thing, and I was like, what did he do? And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And answering that honestly was the best way.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Voice acting, extraordinary, since it's literally, one of the characters never has a model. They're just a voice.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like her. Like.
Yeah, and I remember thinking that I could have seen the model. You can't ever. Yeah. But I remember, like, I was rushing at the very end when there was a fire happening, and she's like, the helicopter's coming, and he's like, wait, don't leave. And I thought, like, if I went fast, I thought there might have been, like, some sort of time thing, that if I went fast enough, I could get there in time to see her not either getting on or, like, whatever, but it turns out you always miss her. Yeah. But the last conversation you have with her at her Firewatch station, what the fuck it's called.
You get a picture, don't you?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Did you?
I think you pick up her picture.
I didn't think you did. The last conversation you had with her was, like, most impactful thing for me, I think. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of moments I remember from that game, though. Wandering around, I thought it was going to go in a horror direction when it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of weird clues. Actually, one of the gripes with the game would be that there was stuff in there, like there was that weird government station.
Yeah, it kept misleading you into different stuff. It would start off with like
and apparently there's a perfectly reasonable explanation for that, but it's in such a weird part that if you don't explore there and it's very far off in the distance, like, you just never know. And then it left me wondering at the time, like, hey, is this like... what was that? You know what I mean? I had to like, Google it afterwards to see if it made any coherent sense, but...
Yeah, there's some moments that it leads you... But I think that's intentional as part of the story of the game, was like, when you first get knocked out, I jumped, right? Yep. And then you think it's this like survival horror thing and you're in the dark and there's somebody out there. And then there's like the whole thing with the girls and the bear, and then maybe there's a bear. Yep. And then there's like the government station, and maybe you're all being played with, and maybe what's that all about, and the mystery behind the government facility, and all that. And it turns out it's just a guy playing your brain against you to try and get you to like leave.
Yeah, weird woodsman.
Yeah, which is also cool. But like, you're right. It got a little bit like, what kind of even story game are you telling? Are you a horror game, a suspense, a thriller, a mystery, a romance? What are you? In the end, it's a life story, but it got a little bit too much like, I don't know what you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was supposed to be feeling. And I didn't know. Yeah, it was a little odd, but it was very quirky, and I enjoyed a lot of it.
So. Oh, I enjoyed a lot of it. Simple control, simple system, pretty art style, even though it's very basic.
I am looking forward to what that studio does next.
Mm-hmm.
There is no word on what they're doing next. There is a Firewatch movie, perhaps, in development.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. But one of the better experiences I had this year for sure.
Yeah. So Firewatch was my second. So we'll go to, for me, we'll do Overwatch.
Sure.
Just because I've played it a lot.
You have played that a lot.
And I was like, for me, between games, I need a non-committal game. So you have Binding of Isaac.
Yep.
And I had for a long time with League of Legends because it was just easy to turn it on, play 2 rounds for a half an hour, and turn it off.
Yeah, just to get something out of your system, like a palate cleanser almost.
Yeah,
right?
and like I don't want to watch any more TV. I don't care about what's on YouTube right now, and like there's just nothing. I don't want to just waste the last few hours of my night just staying awake because I'm not tired and I need to watch TV. I want to play something, and League of Legends was that for me. But then that game just got boring for me. Like I played it for years, and I was just like, I just can't anymore. Like every time a new champion came out, you'd master it in like 4 games and be like, all right, there's nothing you're doing that's going to make anything quite that new. So when Overwatch came out, I was contemplating switching over to it, but then the character designs and the story and the cinematics are so good. I was like, I'm down. So good. Like the cinematic work alone is Disney level. Like it's extraordinary stuff. And then I got into the game, and I've got to say, it's the only other game for where you've got that online competitive world where I was hooked enough to keep playing. I mean, I've stopped, but
you played it like all year on and off.
Yeah,
you played it for a long time.
Yeah, it's just it has that hook. It has that circle. It has that was not circle. The cycle.
The loop.
The loop.
Gameplay loop.
Yeah, like. I mean, I have my gripes at the end of the day that, like, playing on your own when you're that kind of person where you're just trying to jump on for a few minutes, you're not always jumping on to play with 10 friends, like, or 5 friends, or whatever the fuck it is. Like, sometimes you just want to jump on and play a quick 20-minute game. And that's more than likely most people in the world. Mm-hmm. If that's the case and you're sitting down to play and you play the single-player games, it's just the matching system, and then also just in general, again, as per normal people, I can jump in one game and be doing everything I know I'm supposed to be doing and doing it great, and everyone else is just making it horrible. And I'm like, and I'm not talking like I'm amazing or any like that incredible. I have a shitty aim. I know I do in first-person shooters, but like I'm going on the point that says capture, and you just stand on the point that's highlighted in blue, and they're just like wee or swapping characters every 10 seconds, and you're just like, no, pick one. You keep swapping, keeps resetting your ult, just no, like just so frustrating that it
that's the thing with an online only game. Like you can't pick and choose when you're gonna have a good game.
No,
you know what I mean.
And it has an interesting system based around making that have like that pick happen, right? So like in the games, it'll pair you with people who are at your win level, win rate, and aim rate, and everything like that, and like you're matched. And when you do that, the games turn out really well because both teams are both understanding the mechanics, both play the same way, blah blah blah. Because your stats kind of reflect what kind of player you are. And those games usually turn out, even at a loss, a fun competition, right? But then the other 50% of the game, to make it more interesting, is that they'll pair you with people who are like either significantly weaker or significantly better than you, or against that, right? But most of the time, it's they pair you with people 50% of the time, people who are significantly weaker than you, who have almost never played. And there's no such thing as carrying in Overwatch, where like you can carry the team along as one person. So the rest of your team is just like sitting around going, gun goes in butt, and they're just like, they're off in the corner like sucking on their own barrel, and you're like, and it just wrecks 5 games for you because 50% of 5 out of 10 games are going to suck horribly, and you're just like, screw this.
Yeah, that can be annoying.
Yeah.
Is that your game of the year? Or is that
my game of the year?
No, just sorry, because I thought for some reason I thought that was, so I didn't know if you
Overwatch
load early.
It's kind of a tie between me and that one and the next one.
Okay, that's cool. All right, so I don't really know what to give the second one to. I'm kind
like a third one,
or my third one. But I mean, I'm going up. Like I'm going like top 4. I'm going 4 to 1 type thing. Yeah. So it's like my.
Oh, you're number 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't know.
Because poop.
Should I? I wanted to give it to 1, but I'm enjoying I was going to give it to 1. I'm enjoying more. Pokemon Moon.
Oh, that's right. That came out.
That came out. Pokemon Moon is a great game. Pokemon Moon is Sun and Moon, I guess.
Yeah.
Pokemon Moon. The most fun I've had with a Pokemon game in years. I was a huge Pokemon player for a long time. I gobbled up every new release, and then somewhere along the line, around XY, I was very hyped for them. It was the first transition into 3D that Pokemon games were having, and I totally lost interest. I got it, and it was immediately just like, oh, this is super boring. Yeah. I finally got tired of the formula.
Yeah.
Like, I finally got tired of the formula. It was weird. It was a weird experience, right? I was like, oh, why am I bored of this? I literally replayed, like, Pokemon Soul Silver, like, probably 70 times. Like, no word of a lie. I've replayed those games a million times. And, like, this one is finally, they've tweaked the formula just enough for it to be fresh to me again. And it's such a cop-out, too, because it's not really that fresh.
No,
it's the same thing, but only kind of. Like, it's it'd be like if you gave someone, like, instead of saying, like, hey, here's an orange, it's like, here's a mandarin orange. And you're like, oh, this is slightly sweeter. Like, or,
and smaller and more convenient and fits in my pocket.
And that's kind of what it is. The whole game is streamlined. It's a lot more convenient. They have a cool mix of old Pokemon, and new forms of old Pokemon.
Some of them are just... Yeah.
Some of them are funny. Some of them are funny designs. The Diglets in particular have...
I gotta say, I think they intentionally, for this game, rewrote all those Poke entries to be darker on purpose.
There's a lot of dark ones.
There's videos out there now, people read them all off, but there's the Dorkly one for the top 20 is along the lines of some of the best ones. They are horrifying. They're like... Not only have they just
way more than usual.
Yeah, not only have they finally admitted that humans eat Pokemon, because it's in several entries now. Like that you eat the sharks apparently, and you cut the fins off and make shark fin soup.
You cut Slowpoke tails off, eat those.
Yeah, but there's all sorts of them. Like even rewriting some of the older ones, just making like the horrible life of the horrible creature from before even worse. I don't even like some of them don't want to get into, but like there's one that it's a. It was one of Ash's Pokemon, and it's an ice Pokemon, and it's white and blue, and it looks a bit like a seal.
A seal?
Not a seal. Anyways, it's dumb.
Sure.
Whatever. Its secondary form is like this ice type, and in its description, it tries to draw people off into the distance, and then they freeze to death. But now in the new edition, it draws people off and then freezes them and then decorates their cave with the frozen.
Oh yeah, that's Snowrunt's evolution. I forget what it's called. Yeah.
Like that's horrible creatures. Horrible creatures.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Haunter now is the most horrific thing that's ever existed. The new entry for Haunter is just awful. Yeah, because like beforehand, like it was bad and it was this horrible creature, and now it says in the actual entry that it was a human that's died. It's now become the Pokemon, right? And what it does is it goes around trying to scare people to die and become its Pokemon friend into other Gengars, right? And at the same time, it says that the doctor says if you ever feel a cold chill down your spine, an unnerving that you can't shake, it is a Gengar, and you are going to die no matter what, and there is no escaping it. This thing is just going to kill you no matter what, and it's going to float around and do that.
Yeah, that danger's not really there in the game at all.
No.
For how horrifying all these entries are, like, it's never...
Like, but the thing is like, there's so many of them that are so much darker this time, I think they intentionally made them silly.
Yeah, the Pokedex entries have always been fucked.
Yeah.
Like, they're always stupid. Like, they're written not correctly.
It's like the machine that, like, is using it now is just making it up, just to, like scare children.
So this was a point of debate with among Pokemon fans for a while. Was the Pokedex... Because... Professor Oak was like, hey, go out and fill this Pokedex out, right? If it's just a machine that already has all the entries in it, he already knows what they are.
Yeah.
So is this the kid seeing it and then writing in there? Like,
well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, but like in the show with Ash, whenever he scanned something, it came up with the information.
Show's not canon. You can't bring the show. In the show, Pikachu shocked a Rhydon by aiming at its horn. It's a ground type. You can never shock it. Okay. But Pokemon Moon is cool because
nerd
X and Y. It's not canon. X and Y. They were fully 3D and it was kind of like poorly implemented. I thought this one is a lot more cinematic. It does different camera angles and it finally feels like an RPG out of like the PS2 era. But like that's enough for it to feel again like an evolution because Pokemon was so stuck in grid-based tile set, like you're moving around the world and stuff. And this finally feels like a real full RPG, which I've been really enjoying. That's it. That's about it. I'll give the shout out to the other ones later. Because I have some honorable mentions, but my game of the year is next.
My next one strangely enough, despite my constant on this podcast bitching about the Uncharted series, is Uncharted 4. Because finally, out of all of them, there was one that was actually any good. And I didn't even buy the other ones.
Well,
I borrowed them from friends.
I know that we're like the only people that hold this opinion.
Yeah. But I didn't like the other games, and I hated Nathan Drake with a fiery passion. I thought he was a worthless human being who needed to die. So no matter what he did, he would not die. But no, 4, I mean, obviously, since Neil Druckmann took over, the story was compelling, the characters were interesting, the relationships were, as per Neil Druckmann, because he likes relationships and human relationships, like the opening sequence of walking around your house and seeing all the stuff you collected, and then snuggling up with your wife and playing Crash Bandicoot and debating about what you're going to order in tonight, you know, after you've gone diving this morning, blah, blah, blah. You know, your brother making you a passion plea, and, like, you know, you running around and still being hooked to the danger, and, you know, I really felt that, so that part was really amazing. And then
it's cool that such a big franchise put in such a human moment like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
especially since beforehand I never connected to any of them. I didn't care about, like, everyone's like, oh, this character, and I'm like, you saw them for 2 seconds and they had like 20 lines. Like, you really don't know that much, and even if you did, you read it in a book. Like, it's not the same.
Sure.
But the other thing that I really, really liked about this game was an innovative way of making quote in the air QuickTime events, because they weren't QuickTime events. You still had control of your character. But, like, my favorite one being the car chase scene in one of the old, like, I think it was I don't know what it was, a Brazilian town or something like that. And the fact that, like, you're on this car, and if you chose not to jump over to the other cars, that was fine. You could beat up people on the back of yours, and then your car would start to catch fire, and then you'd flip and, like, kick one guy off a bike, and then you could jump onto the other one. You actually had to pull yourself up. Like, you had control of all these actions that played out like a video sequence, but you were really controlling it, and there wasn't, like, you're controlling everything, but, you know, nevertheless,
it was like a heavily scripted sequence rather than like QuickTime events.
But, like, you still actually had options, and it wouldn't play out the same time every time, because, like, I failed at it a couple of times when I was going through it, and that turned into you know, a different set of scenarios every time, but the actions were kind of scripted. Anyways, just awesome, a really great way of ingraining yourself into something that would normally be a video sequence.
And props to Neil Druckmann for making the final entry in a series that he was not in charge of previously, you know? Like, that's
really amping it up, yeah. That man is just easily escalated to Kojima levels for me.
You got a little schmutz on your face, Watson. Little schmutz. You got a little schmutz. Okay, Uncharted 4. That was your game of the year.
Yeah, like that or Overwatch, but Uncharted 4 or Overwatch.
Well, which one do you give it to, Mike? You gotta make a choice. Which one do you give it to?
Well, since the Game Awards gave it to Drake, so I guess I'll give it to Overwatch.
Game Awards gave it to Overwatch.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, they'll do the other way.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, that's a good way to make your choice.
Yeah.
My game of the year is Doom.
Yeah.
Doom was a fantastic game. Doom was... I did not expect it to be that good. No one expected it to be that good. Yeah. It came out with very little, like... Any footage that came out before, it was like people were playing it very weird, very slow, walking around. Doom was not a first-person shooter where it was just like a linear corridor of like hallways you were going down to progress. It was a giant open level where there was tons of secrets and tons of like exploring in these giant levels, going back and forth and opening different doors. And it was just, and the story didn't take itself seriously, and there was very minimal story, which again I enjoy obviously. And you know, it's just the Doom Marine just being like, they're like, you shouldn't do this, and he just like punches the monitor out of the way, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill everything. And all the demons are like, fuck, it's the Doomslayer. Like, everyone's scared of you because you're the Doomslayer. You got awoken again, which is fucking badass. And he's going around, and boss battles are probably the weakest thing about that game. I didn't really enjoy the boss battles that much. They just seemed like everything was a bullet sponge, you know, of bosses, and you just shoot at them a lot, dodge. But the actual level design, and finding the secrets, and finding really well hidden secrets where... Here's my dirty secret about Doom. I didn't beat it. I'm on the very last level, but I played more of it than maybe normal people who beat the game did, because I found every secret in every level up until the very last level, and then then something else sucked me in, and I started playing that instead. Yeah. But it is nevertheless my game of the year.
Yeah. You should
have had so much fun with
boss.
Yeah, you'd think. You know.
You never will, I know, but
I might go back. I'll probably go back to Doom at some point, but I would have to replay it all again. That's how my brain works. Although, this year I also beat Final Fantasy VII, which I started the year previous. I stopped for like 4 months, and I picked it back up, and I was like, I'm going to fight the temptation to restart the game because I was like, I had just gotten out of Midgar or something, right? It was just that like part in the game, and I was like, all right.
How many times have you done that at this point?
Probably like 4.
Yeah.
Do you have any honorable mentions?
I have a dishonorable mention.
Sure, do it. Do it up. That's what we're here for.
My dishonorable mention is everyone's dishonorable mention for games this year, and that's No Man's Sky. I don't need to add to the bitch fest that is this game.
No.
As everything that needs to be said about it has been said. My personal sense is that I had so much hope for this. My husband is a massive sci-fi fan. The idea of, and we like slow sci-fi. We like the slow thinking sci-fis. So like something like this sounded perfect. Going around and just literally getting an open universe. Like if we had a decision, we would get ourselves a ship like Serenity and just take off in space and see what's out there. That sounds amazing. So we wanted a game where that was just like that, but there was so much about the promise of what it was, and so much that could never be achieved. I understood always since the beginning it couldn't be achieved the way they were talking about if they positioned it a different way. That I'm just like so sad that didn't turn into even a fraction of what they promised. If it was even just half, it would have been amazing.
Yeah, and the thing was, like, I don't want to be holier than that or anything, but ever since that game got unveiled, I was like, there's no way that's going to be good. Like, I never thought, and I was always very, like, it was kind of like how we are with Legend of Zelda. I was like, what are people seeing in this? Everything they showed was, like, very boring to me. So when it finally came out, I was hoping that it would be great and I would get convinced to play it, but that didn't happen.
No.
All right, I want to do some honorable mentions. Salt and Sanctuary. Salt and Sanctuary is a 2D Dark Souls, basically.
Indie game, really good one.
Yeah, it was done by a husband and wife team. A couple other people helped, but it was predominantly them. The wife did the art. I don't think they achieved anything true greatness here, but I've never beaten a Souls game, and I beat this game. You know, something about it in 2D clicked with me more. Maybe it's just taking away the one axis for me.
I usually judge if a game's good for you if I come in and you're still playing it, because usually if it's like not something that I know that I'm going to be talking about, I'll come in and suddenly there'll just be like nothing on it. Like, I thought you were playing like Doom or something, but you were playing Doom when you came in. But I would come over and you would have Salt and Sanctuary still playing. You were doing it up until the doorbell rang. Like,
I was surprised at how much I liked it. I kind of thought I would get it and I would fall out of it just like I had Dark Souls previously, and it just hooked me all the way through. Great game. Honorable mention to those guys. Shout out. I can't wait to see what they do next. I want to give Gears of War 4 a shout out. I don't think it was good. It was a lot of fun, but it didn't do anything to evolve the Gears formula. I'm going to spoil the end of Gears for you right now. I know you don't give a fuck.
Don't give a flying fuck.
It was the entire way through.
Could fly. They'd be like going Mach 10.
The end of Gears is very cool. You get into giant robots and have giant like gun sword battles and stuff. Yes, it's very cool. But at the same time, it's the exact same control scheme. You just run slower. Here's a giant robot. And it's cool and fun and empowering, but like that was what they did to improve this game. They put you in a giant robot. And it's very cool, but it's not as like good as it sounds, you know? It was a lot of fun, and I think they nailed Gears. I just think they need to take it to the next level in the next game. They need to do something to evolve the formula.
Yeah.
Gears of War 4, and I want to give a shout out to Street Fighter 5. What a shame. What a shame.
What a shame.
That game, if you told me that I would have booted up Street Fighter 5, like even a year or 2 years ago, you said like Street Fighter 5 would come out and I only would have booted it up like 5 times in the year, I wouldn't have believed you. But I've only booted it up 5 times this year. And I had a good time every time, but it just felt so underwhelming that the single player content could not keep me going. I have no want to delve into these systems as much as I did in 4. So that's been disappointing.
I can usually judge that for this fighting game right away, though. Like, if I pick up a fighting game and, I'm kind of like, I kind of get this. And I know that if I just spent a little bit of time getting my reflexes down and, like, memorizing a couple of combos, I'd be okay. And I could just start going with it from that point on. I know that that's going to get boring real fast. One of my favorite fighting games was Pocket Fighter. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Pocket Fighter's great.
The first Pocket Fighter. Super simple system.
Yeah.
Super simple. But it was just in the right way, in the right frame, and the right placement that like it was really fun and addictive, and I played that for a really long time. But there was another fighting game, not Bushido Blade. Is that it? No, that's the one where you're samurais, right?
Yeah. That sounds familiar. I never played Bushido Blade.
No, Bushido Blade is the actual fighting one, I think.
I'll take your word for it.
Anyways, there's this fighting game, and it was based on an anime, and also had an anime with it, and it was a lot like SNK. And each character was like more wildly anime than the last. The first one was like Street Fighter V, where it was just like, okay, I get it, you know, and I'm just going to do that. But the second one had this little bit of an intricate system where like you could set buttons to like just be the power on certain parts, and that it would only burn at a certain amount of your bar. And then certain other powers, if combined with the other ones at the right moment, would set off the bigger one that you'd want. And you could just play around with that. And that was as complex as the system got, but I got so hooked on just achieving that that I was like, I want to play more fighting game. Playing Street Fighter V with you for a couple hours was just like, I'm like, okay, I would just get the combos down. And I think I get bored of this real quick.
No, it was good systems. I just had no want to keep going.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, it was just like, I know this will get dry quick.
No, I don't even know if it was that. I think part of it is I don't have a roommate anymore that wants to play Street Fighter, which was also a big thing about Street Fighter 4. It was very easy to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, still, I understand you because Street Fighter 5 is overwhelming. All right, come back to the next segment to find out what we're most anticipating about 2017. And hopefully my voice comes back.
I was going to say, his face.
Second segment. Sorry about myself. I can't speak loud. I need to talk in a lower register.
That's okay. Just
Welcome to the NPR cast.
Tonight on CBC Radio.
Yes, this is where we talk in a low whisper and tell you about all the upcoming video games for 2017. The ones that your hosts, Cal G and Mike Kent, are the most excited about.
Make it sound sexy.
Make it sound very sexy. Oh, I don't know about all that. Okay. So we've configured a list here of the most top anticipated games. Let's just start it off, Mike.
Yeah. So
what is in front of us?
First one is Cuphead. Still anticipated. This game's been pushed off several times now.
I think it was originally supposed to come out 2015.
Yeah. But the game kept expanding as the studio expanded, because the studio had never done anything before this, I don't think. Or at least the team hadn't been assembled. And then the developers and the artists and stuff involved started to expand on the concept of the game, and it kept growing.
Sorry, so 1 second. If you don't know, Cuphead is a game that's inspired by like old 1930s cartoons.
Like Steamboat Mickey.
You've probably seen it before. If you haven't Googled it, it has a very cool art style. Yeah, like Steamboat Mickey.
Yeah. Like classic Warner Brothers Disney kind of stuff. And then it started out kind of like a platformer, just a little indie game, and then it started turning into kind of a run and gun.
Yeah, because at first it was just going to be a boss rush game, right?
Yeah.
They were only doing bosses, and now everyone was like, oh, you're not having, and then they're like, oh yeah, we could, and then they have platforming now, and they have a world map.
And the sheer reaction to the excitement of the whole thing, that's what made people more excited about the game.
Absolutely.
Also, a cool part about this is one of the programmers, literally on the Wikipedia page, Tony Kolakuzzi, is here in Ottawa, from here.
Ooh.
Yeah, and one of the artists, I don't know if it's Chad, but there's another artist or art director on the team who is also in Ottawa. The whole team itself is actually kind of spread around, like they don't have a singular spot
Studio,
they work from. They're all just like mobile workers, which is great. I think it's a really kind of a great system for studios as well. You can't get everyone in one spot. And the game looks great. I'm excited to see what it becomes and what it turns into. There's tons of footage out there, so there's no point in hitting it up with you guys. It just looks super cute, super fun, and it looks like it's going to be a really fun, easy jump in and kind of just have a good run and gun.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, Injustice 2.
Oh, okay. So
God, Christ. I always enjoy Mortal Kombat games. I never stick with them for long, and Injustice plays exactly like Mortal Kombat, more or less. This will be something that I'll probably, play for a month. I always like starting modes.
I can't swallow this still. It's like, I know fighting games don't look at power levels, all that shit, but like, I just can't watch fucking, I don't know, Joker take on Superman,
No, but they had a dumb comic book reason for that.
Uh-huh.
Joker took a pill.
Yeah.
He was a strong Superman.
Yeah.
That's just how it worked. Everyone took the pill. That's why everyone who was Batman even, or whatever, they were all, that's why, you get hit by a car, you were fine, all this shit, so.
No,
Yes, it's very stupid, but...
I mean, at least they gave an excuse.
I mean, yeah, they gave an excuse. At least, it's stupid and comic booky, but it was like,
Yeah.
here, that's fine. Like,
I'm
we know that Joker can't take on Superman, so here we go.
I'm interested to see the armor system in this. That looks neat.
Yeah, I kind of want to see what that's all about. I wonder if it's just going to be like, why would I ever fucking want to do this?
Yeah, they're like, oh, everyone will have a different armor. There's that many. And I'm like, that you're going to have like 5 million players. You can't have 5 million versions.
Yeah, unless it's going to be like, tiny little, like, this one's fucking radiant pink, like, whatever.
Unless
I'm always excited for these kind of games where I can, Injustice 1, the DLC character was Lobo. Where else do I get to control a Lobo? Mike, nowhere. I don't get to control Lobo very often, and I want to control a Lobo, so...
I mean, like with the armor system, if it's going to be that different and, you're going to get characters, you're going to change them up, then you should have Lobo and have him be able to wear, like, every single piece is different. Like, blinking lights and rainbow, right?
Yes.
And, like, a pink outfit.
Yes.
And he does, like, a little gay party dance or something. Swinging his chain over his head.
Mike and I will play this. Well, I'll make Mike
Yes.
play this, so we'll have impressions of it whenever it comes out.
Oh, I'll totally play it. I
Yeah.
will have a huge blast playing it. It's
Yeah.
just not... I'm not running into it. Haven't bought a fighting game since, like, PlayStation 1 era. So
Yeah,
it's never been my genre to run and buy.
And
But
this
I love
has-
playing them with people.
Yeah, and this has a neat roster so far.
Yeah.
Aquaman, expected. But Atrocitus, that's the, like, Red Lantern,
Red
right?
Lantern. He was a huge hit after his design.
So, yeah, that's cool. We got, like, a Blood Lantern. Batman, obviously. Blue Beetle, awesome. I want Blue Beetle.
Is it the robot version or the old classic?
It's the robot version.
Yeah.
Which I like more, personally.
Yeah.
I like the Young Justice Blue Beetle. When I see the old Blue Beetle, I'm like,
I don't like the old Blue Beetle's design. I kind of like the character a bit more.
Sure. With Flash, obviously.
Yeah.
Gorilla Grodd, awesome.
Mm.
Yes, Psychic Gorillas.
Psychic
Harley Quinn, she was in the first one. We got Supergirl, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
All pretty. We didn't have Supergirl in the last one. That's actually new.
No, I think it's going to be neat. It's going to be fun. I hope it's interesting, and I hope that I can make a giant gay rainbow armor.
Yes, I hope so too. Just because we want to see that, and we can share it on the Pens and Texas page. Next up is an indie title called Little Nightmares.
Hey, fun boys, get a room.
Oh my god. What's happening right now? What is my life? Why do I do a podcast with this man? For a whole year, nonetheless.
Yeah. He keeps letting me in.
Fingers crossed when we get 2 years. Okay, so the next game is a little indie game called Little Nightmares. Google this.
Yeah.
Go look at a YouTube video. It is awesome looking.
It's hard to describe because, like, we talk about, if you could talk about it, you'd be like, all right, little girl in this, like, giant house with creepy things.
Yeah, you're very small, or maybe they're giant people and you're a regular sized person. Who knows? And it looks very, like, Coraline-esque. It has a kind of stop motion look to it a little bit. Weird, creepy music, kind of like Coraline.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like a kind of off-putting that chef design.
A little bit of Tim Burton in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's got almost a kind of a claymation kind of feel and look to it. It's very interesting looking, just on its own like design merits and its own visual designs. So that's what's kind of interesting.
The gameplay looked like a lot of platforming and exploring. So that might not be anything special, but it could be a cool experience, like overall.
Well, I liked even just like the way they did, like with the platforming and stuff. There were some components of it that looked really like, okay, I've seen this and that's fine. It's just jumping over stuff. But then like her climbing up a bookshelf, or some of the directional changes for navigating the world looked really interesting. Plus that fat chef that was chasing her at the end was like something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
wouldn't want that thing anywhere coming near me.
This is coming out, I think they said early next year. I'm just going to go check. But this is one to keep your eye on. I think this might be maybe
the
darling
initial
for
release
next year.
date's 2017. Though. Is
that all it says? 2017? Yeah, okay. For some reason I thought it said early, but that's okay.
No.
That's okay. Little Nightmares. Go check it out. Go Google it. This next one, you won't have to Google it all. You know what it is. We've talked about it at length, so I'm just going to give it a briefing mention here. Mass Effect Andromeda.
We're very excited.
The only thing I want to mention here is, do you think they're going to stick to the spring release date?
So that was the only thing I wanted to hit on. We were talking about this before on one of the breaks. With one, they've been working on this game for more than 4 years. Like, so it's been a long time. So it's not like the dev cycle's behind and they haven't done anything. So we can't think that they're not completing the game to a certain point. But the next thing too is like the release date was for spring. The shareholders meeting said it needed to still come out inside of the fiscal year, which could be around March, which still fits. We still have that book that says that it's releasing
alongside it on a weird date, like March 21st.
First or something like that. These guys have started to roll out the campaign appropriately, like we getting the new mission briefs on the website and stuff, and that stuff doesn't cycle up until the game's coming up to release.
Yeah, I feel like they have to be pretty confident.
Yeah.
And it seems like it sounds like they have 5 coming up, 1 for each month before it should come out, hypothetically. Interestingly, Colin Moriarty from Kind of Funny Games, he tweeted out, like, still not giving us a Mass Effect Andromeda release date, getting kind of worried about that. And the head of BioWare tweeted back at him and said, I'd love to buy you a beer sometime, ... So I don't know what that means. Maybe that's like, I want to set you straight, but there's
nothing to fear.
There's nothing to fear, or is that like, you need to hear the fucking story about this game and everything coming up to it, you know, like, it's a miracle it came out, you know, you never know. I don't know what to read into that.
He wouldn't publicly put something out that would elicit fear. He's putting that out to be like, by the way, I'm going to put your fears aside. Plus, the ramp-up is still on track, and they wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for the case. So I expect, like, maybe March, April, no later than that. I still think it's going to be very much.
I think it'll be around that area. I think it might get pushed a little bit, but yeah, like April-ish.
And we saw enough gameplay from this point right now that we know that it's shippable at this moment. It wouldn't be perfect, but it's shippable.
I think so, yeah. I think it's probably just a lot of polish.
Yeah.
Outlast 2. Mike, I know you don't have very much interest in this. This is one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I have no.
As much as I knock Amnesia clones and all that stuff for horror games, this is a game where you are defenseless and you're running around being scared. Yeah. Outlast, I think, the first one did it the best out of all those games, and Outlast 2 looks to be even creepier. You're in cornfields, very classic horror trope, right? Like, looking forward to this a lot. Not much more to say about it, but I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Prey.
Again, we talked about Prey in a previous podcast, just like last week.
Yeah.
So
not much to say about it, but it is going to come out in 2017.
It says Q1, Q2 on here. I'm putting my bets on Q2. It'd be great if this came out in like the summer drought. Give us a good game to let's like delve into.
Yeah, we don't need any more first quarter shit.
No, we have too much shit in the first quarter. So,
like, I'd have a backlog of games. Yeah. And not only that, but like I have a backlog of games, and I know one of them's going to be like, oh, you know what? Was I really interested in this? And I won't play it.
Yeah.
You know. So, like, I want this to be second quarter for sure. But it's queued up definitely for 2017. Earlier half than the later half of 2017. Now excited about this game.
Absolutely.
You know, especially after the last trailer.
This is the studio that did Dishonored 2. This is like the other half of it. Yeah. Because they're in the... It's Arcane. They're in Austin, Texas, I want to say.
And they're finally visually upgrading their fucking work.
Yeah. Well, the studio's doing a great job. The other one, not as much.
Yeah. Because, they're still stuck in that fucking...
Austin branch of Arcane,
that Bethesda world of, graphics don't need updating.
No. These guys are doing a great job, so... really looking forward to this, and again, I hope it hits at the right time when it's not too crowded.
Yeah.
Because people need to understand that, like, there are people like us out here, and I imagine a lot of people who... They like Mass Effect. They like Horizon. They like Persona. They like Prey. You need to give us some time, some space. We're not rich. And
not only just that we're not rich. I mean, I'll find the money, but I also like completing a game. I hate the sensation of leftover that I want to go back to it. But I know very few people who actually go back to a game once they've gone through it. Mostly, like if you play through Horizon. And Horizon's going to have, like, a bunch of side stuff. And then, like, you do the primary side stuff and at least get all the weapons, right? And you could go back and you could get the last bits that would get you the ultimate weapon and maybe some health upgrades, right? I do not do I beat the game, now I'm going to go back into the open world and get that. I've never turned that back on.
I've almost never done that. If I want to keep playing the open world, I just like, look, I'm like, okay, that's the last mission. I'm going to do everything before the last mission.
Yeah.
Everything I want to do. And then I'll go beat the last mission. Yeah. That's how I roll.
Yeah, totally. This is Final Fantasy 15 for me right now. Like, I mean, I need to stop doing all the side missions and actually play some of the story, because I've done like 4 story missions in 20 hours. While I spend the rest of the time like going, I got to finish all the side quests. So it's a dumb way of doing it. I try and finish it off along the way, and I try and like achieve as much of it beforehand. And if I get to the last mission and I haven't gotten everything I want, I'm like, let's book it right back to this first level.
Yep.
So, I want that chance, especially since the games coming out aren't just Injustice. It's fucking Horizon Zero Dawn, the largest open world that ever exists.
Yep.
Mass Effect, 126
the largest universe to ever exist.
Yeah, to go explore. And then,
one of my looking forward to, Persona 5. That was coming out, like, I had a lot of anxiety about this. It was coming out, like, 2 weeks before Horizon. I was like, I'm never going to get Persona 5 done in 2 weeks. No. There is no way. Persona 5 is a huge old school Japanese RPG
with lots of grind.
Yes, lots of grind, lots of talking, lots of just everything. And thankfully, they pushed it to April, when I think I might be done with Horizon Zero Dawn. Give me a good month for Horizon, I'll probably be done.
Yeah.
Then we got April, and we got fucking motherfucking Persona. Great.
Wait, no, but now it just overlaps with Mass Effect.
So, delay Mass Effect. I've been waiting for Persona 5 for so long. Persona 4 came out in 2008. You know what I mean? Like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I need a good dose of Japanese into my veins, and Persona is the remedy.
I've been looking for a JRPG, and I mean now Final Fantasy is kind of
dude. I really think you'll enjoy the Persona series. Like I think if we give ourselves the time, like
it's so hard to squeeze it in when I really don't have that compulsion because I haven't touched it yet. And the Persona games have never had any like you look at a game and you're like, oh, I know I'm gonna like that, right? I look at Horizon, I know I'm gonna like that. I look at fucking Last of Us, I know I'm gonna like that. I look at Final Fantasy, I know I'm gonna like that. When I looked at any of the Persona games, I'm like, that's very cool. I don't know, and I know exactly the moment it happened. Was I was playing? It was the Shin Megami the spin-offs. Is that?
Yeah, there's a ton. This is Shin Megami Tensei Persona. So. Yeah.
So I played the Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, which had fucking Dante in it as one of the optional characters. Yeah. The most boring fucking thing I've ever touched in my life, and I knew that there were 100 more like them, and they kept coming out, and I was like, nope, nothing about this looks interesting.
There's a ton of Shin Megami Tensei games.
Yeah.
I had a weird experience with Persona. I heard Persona got revamped kind of when it went to 3. They used to be old school, like very first person dungeon crawler weird shit. Persona 3 revamped everything. I kept hearing on podcasts like how good it was, and oh yeah, and it's these fucking emo kids and they shoot themselves in the head. Demons come out, and I was like, that sounds cool, but whatever. I don't really care. Yeah. And then Persona 4 came out and kind of became this like cultural phenomenon. Like it was a mini cultural phenomenon, obviously, but like
no, it was so.
It was way bigger than 3 was. And
people were like saying names, and they're like, the Katsuri Hashisho and Yukikari, they're gonna go and have like this relationship with Haruju Katagaru, and I'm like, who in the what's? And you're like so into this, and you've got the characters, and
so I gave in, and I bought Persona 4 actually for a friend for his birthday, and then we got in a fight, and I was like, I'll fucking play his game. So I played his game, and I was like, this is amazing. I finally tried it, and then I finally gave it to him after. I was like, I played this, but it's great. Here you go. Yeah, I fell in love with Persona 4, and I went back and actually played Persona 3.
Your friends are so much more interesting when it comes down to the relationships with them, because like. I wanted to play Final Fantasy IX. I got Final Fantasy IX. My friend wanted to play Final Fantasy IX. We just sat down and played Final Fantasy IX. Like I never had these like I got in a fight and stole a game, or like my friend like ate 10 pounds of cheese.
I got it for him for his birthday, and then we got in a fight, and then I didn't give it to him, and I just played it. I didn't steal it from him. I mean, I kind of did. I mean, it was going to be his property, but it never technically was, right? I ended up giving it to him anyways, and I was like, here you go. And then he ended up liking it. But yeah, Persona was just a game I fell in love with, and Persona 5 looks like it's going to be an even better version of Persona 4. So, really looking forward to that. I hope I can convince Mike to play it at the time. Hopefully Mass Effect doesn't come out.
Oh, if Mass Effect's out, I'm not playing.
I understand. Pyre.
Yeah, this is mine.
I don't care about Pyre. This is your Outlast 2.
I mentioned this exact thing in the last podcast. Pyre is just interesting to me because it's Supergiant Games. I want to do everything that, I think her name is Jen Tran. I swear it's Jen Tran. The artist involved. Just extraordinary work, extraordinary art. Just can't not think about looking at this game. Like, at the end of the day, the mechanics are really neat and interesting and really fun. But no, I need to touch it.
Sure, it doesn't look fun to me personally, but none of their games were. I just look at them, I'm like, what a visual feast.
Yeah. But that's the part of it that I liked. Like, I mean, Transistor I found quite boring, but Bastion I found quite fun. But visually, I needed to see more. I always just needed to see more. And they're so quick and fast. I beat them out in like 6 hours, 7 hours. I don't care about this like mass grind completion that some people do on those games.
Yeah, Bastion in particular, a lot of people replay and go back.
And there's a lot of like hardcore replayability to that game, like for like high level like grinding.
I tried with Bastion. I tried to play it like 4 separate times, and I booted up, and I try to give it a longer chance each time, and it never gets me. And like that's just. It's not this game's fault, It seems like a perfectly fine game. It's just not for me. So
awesome soundtracks too for both of them, Transistor and.
Yeah, Bastion was cool. I remember. Yeah. Next up, a game that needs no press from us, so we're gonna go over it quickly. Red Dead Redemption 2. I know you don't really care. I love the first Red Dead. I'm looking forward to seeing the next one. That's coming out.
I want it to be even buggier.
yeah. Mike's in it for the bug videos.
Yeah.
I thought they had a date, but it says Q3, Q4 here.
I want bugs that go off that are like so random. Like you go over and you start pouring yourself a beer, and then suddenly your horse explodes. And you're just like, you put the cup down, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry. And then suddenly this like hooker just takes off like a rocket, and you're like, if I don't move, I won't destroy everything.
Really, you know what's really weird though? Like Grand Theft Auto 5 had like no glitches really like that. They didn't have any bird people or anything.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
Like Red Dead was like full of them. Yeah, really strange. I want like a human like skeleton to be on a horse, and a horse come walking up to you very creepily, and it's like wagging its head back and forth. And you're like, oh fuck, kill it.
I want like a human model just to be completely stretched around the train when it pulls up, and it's like his face is the front of the train. And his legs are just on the ground, but like his hands keep moving to try and be the wheels.
All aboard the skin train. He's like flailing his little arms, like, oh god.
Everyone else is just like climbing around board. What a fancy train!
Yeah,
everyone like, no.
Everyone inside, you're like, you're on the road to hell. Okay, next up is Scalebound. If you haven't seen that game, it's a game where you command a giant dragon. You get to play as the dragon.
You can become half dragon yourself.
It seems, you are half dragon yourself. It seems very ambitious. It's from Platinum, and I have a lot of faith in Platinum, or I used to.
This game got progressive.
Scalebound's been getting, it's weird. It had some really good trailers, and it had some bad ones, and I haven't seen anything for it in a while. I think they kind of realized that the game was in trouble, and they pushed it to 2017.
Yeah.
So, still looking forward to it. Still, I want to have faith in it. I want it to be good. Because there's never really been a great dragon game.
No, that's the thing.
That's the thing. You never. Yeah. Dragons are like a staple of nerds. You know,
Dungeons
and Dragons.
They are perfect creatures.
And we're like, we've never had. It's rare we even have games where we play near dragon. Or Skyrim was the one where it's like, okay, we nailed dragons, and they're.
There's a couple of them. There was one back on the PS1. It was like Dragoon or something like that, where you played like Star Fox on a dragon.
Legend of Dragoon?
No, there's another one. It was like day of release, PlayStation 1, and it was like Star Fox, where you're like literally flying a dragon around on like just a path, and you just shoot fireballs from its face.
Oh. There was Lair on PS3, which was terrible. Oh god, that was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So this looks really promising in some of its content, in the context of how the gameplay could work. But the continued videos of it just made it look like a really bad version of like Monster Hunter.
Yeah, so I'm hoping they pull it together, and the next time it gets re-revealed, like I'm hoping for good stuff. Next up is South Park: Fractured But Whole. I really enjoyed the last South Park. What was that fucking called?
Stick of Truth.
Stick of Truth.
Yeah.
And this one is the superhero South Park. Instead of playing Lord of the Rings, you're playing superheroes, which is great. It's gonna be funny. It already has been. So just looking forward to that. It got delayed, which is unfortunate. It would have been out already, actually.
Why did it get
delayed? Today, actually, I think.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be out very early December, but it got delayed. I don't know. I'm not really sure why. It didn't really seem like a big problem. I wonder if they just wanted to get out of the way of like Final Fantasy 15 and Last Guardian and all these big games. So they pushed it to the first quarter of 2017. So that's coming.
Which is the worst time.
Yeah, now. But I already have the game pre-ordered on Xbox, so it's just going to download whenever it comes out, and I'm going to go play through it.
Yeah.
Next up, this is one for me. This is one for Cal. I have no idea if you're interested in this.
I would totally play it. I just don't know if I want to put the money into buying it.
Never have I heard less faith in something. It says coming out Q1 2017. I kind of doubt that. I feel like they're going to probably put another half a year into this at least. But I want them to. I want this game to be good. This is the spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie. Those are some of my favorite games on the N64, personally. I really love Banjo-Kazooie. I love Banjo-Tooie. And it's the original team coming back, doing a modern update of a platformer like that.
I want a platformer. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I want to play Mario 64 again, or get back into that Spyro.
Yeah, I want something like that. We have so few of those now. Like we got
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank.
It's turned into a shooter at the end of the day.
Yeah, those are like a lot of. There's platforming. There's a lot of shooting. It's not in the same vein as Mario 64. No. I feel. Whereas this looks like it's going.
Yeah, I want to come into a world and look around it and go like, I think I'm supposed to jump along those puzzles to get up. Nope, and then
I want a big, colorful, cartoony world. The character designs are all very evocative of like classic Rare. So looking forward to this game. Could not be happier that it's actually existing. There's a snake, and he's a trouser snake because he's like in a trouser, and they're playing very coy there because they're British.
I just don't like the main character design.
No.
I like the bat. I do not like the.
Oh, I like both of them. I like both of them a lot.
I something about that lizard. Just I'm like, okay, you're really, really basic and generic.
Did you like? Do you like Banjo and Kazooie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like their design. I thought it was clever. Like, there's this bird living in his backpack, and then like Banjo himself is this like big goof, and then you got like this like kind of catty bird. I love Spyro's design. It was like this dragon, but like a child dragon, and like it had this cartoony play to it. Rayman's design is amazing. Like, there's so many great platformer character designs that I really felt that kind of like, you're fun and look really cool to jump around with. Jak and Daxter. All of those. Totally fell in love with. This is too generic on the main character.
I like it. Alright, next up, this game is going to be given a fighting chance because it is very beginning of February. I hope this game does well. Neo. Neo is a Dark Souls inspired type game.
Yeah.
Very Japanese like influence, right?
Like, you're supposed to be a ninja, but you're more of a samurai.
Sure. Really in depth systems. Somehow I actually ended up grabbing Mike, which he's not a Dark Souls like player at all. They revealed a lot of cool demons there.
Yeah, a lot of amazing monster designs, a lot of amazing...
it's something I really want to see through, but I just don't know if I'll ever have the time. You know what I mean?
I'm not going to put the time into it. I know I won't. But when I played the demo, and if the demo comes close to whatever they release at the end, I was really, really happy with the combat system. Having the different stances and the attacks and the fighting really came really close to this really sword fighty, like, breaking through the defense, and then the combos were really fun and like difficult to try and get off. It took some adjustments. The leveling system was extremely complex with lots of really cool ideas.
And they, I know they asked for a lot of feedback over that demo, and a lot of hardcore people went back and said like, this is too tough. This system doesn't make sense, and they're retooling that. They said they take it all into account, which is like good on them. Like that's, Team Ninja has not been good for a while, but it seems like this could be like a success for them.
I just can't I got into the loop in the demo. The demo's long enough that I couldn't get into the loop. Like, I got into the loop of it, and I'm like, all right, so I killed these 4 guys, got up halfway up the mountain. My life is basically dead, and I cannot kill the next guy, so I'm going to go back down to the beginning of the place. The moment I saved there, all the guys came back. I got to do that again. Now I'm a little bit stronger, and I made it 7 guys up. Then I got to go all the way back, heal myself back up, because that's what I have to do, because there's nothing else to do, and I'll just die. All the guys come back. Now I'm going to make it 10 guys up, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this cycle.
And that is Dark Souls. That is very Dark Soulsian.
Yeah.
But I wish all the success in the world for Neo. I hope I play it one day. This next game, I'm not going to make time for when it comes out, but I will make time for it. You better bet sometime in the year. Nier Automata looks like a Bayonetta-inspired action game.
Which has been graphically improving by drastic strides every time I do a demo.
It's weird. It's like they're actively working. Like, it's coming out in 2 months, and they're like still like actively like.
The trailer that came out literally just with PlayStation Experience looks visually and graphically better by probably a factor of 30% compared to the last time. And every time it shows up, it's like, guess what? We're making this like 10 times prettier.
Yeah, it's looking better and better. I know it's just gonna be fast paced fun.
Yeah.
Combat system. So I'm down. The big one of the first quarter.
Horizon Zero Dawn
coming out February 28th.
I don't know if we can talk about this anymore.
No.
I think everyone needs to just shut up and play.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dinosaurs, robots, cave girl, fight, go.
Very intrigued by everything, including the story. Ni no Kuni 2.
Which we finally got to see some stuff at PlayStation Experience, or at Experience, of it, which was intriguing because we saw the usual footage, the usual world for Ni no Kuni, just a little bit more adult looking, which was true. They were saying it's going to become more...
They said, it was going to be a little more adult oriented, right?
And we saw a little bit of, not kingdom building, but we saw a bit of like the kingdom stuff, and it's all about building a kingdom. But the style is definitely shifting away from the Ghibli. It still looks like it, but...
It looks like, I want to say Ghibli, but toned down just a tad, you know what I mean? Like,
and just overworld, look how lush, we're having pictures up of it right now, but like it's very lush and clear and not cartoony looking, when the Ni no Kuni and the first one was still very cartoony.
Whereas, the characters look very cartoony, the world doesn't look quite as.
It's still looking beautiful, but what the most interesting part from the actual demo, from the video, was the combat looked like there were no monsters, so there's no summoning your magical minion. Or is there?
No, there's a bunch of characters around. It looked like you were controlling the main character, though.
Yeah, like
it looked like you were actively attacking
the
person.
2 little guys underneath her, but I don't know. The system's definitely going to be different.
It's definitely, there's more to it, it looks like now.
And it looks like you're in charge of the character, and the character is the fighter. I don't even know if you're a mage. I mean, you have a sword now.
Yeah,
so
I wonder if you summon them and maybe they're support rather than...
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
there may not be a wizard at all in this one. Maybe you're just a king.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Very interesting. They didn't really come out and say anything about it. It's just left up to our interpretations.
Yeah.
So.
But it looked beautiful.
Yeah,
And it looks like I'm down as soon as it comes out.
2017, just in general, they don't know. They don't have another date.
Yeah, looks fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Death's Gambit. Death's Gambit looks goddamn awesome. This is another indie game. Pixel art, and they are going full 2D Dark Souls. I gave Salt and Sanctuary a shout out for doing 2D Dark Souls. This looks even cooler to me, honestly.
I like the platforming parts of it.
Right.
Like the combat, I'm like, okay, I've seen, and maybe it'd be fun, but the climbing up the giant golem, the rope and jumping techniques like that.
Yeah, it
like
looks...
the rappelling, the kind of physics based around it.
You know those games where there's just like one system and they do it really well and it can get kind of tiring?
Yeah.
This looks like you'll be doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So...
Like you've got, like, looks like there's maybe a mount, looks like there's, like, you know, just one-on-one fighting, dodging and all that kind of jazz. It looks like there's different kinds of equipment and ways to play around with that as well. It looks like there's platforming. So there's a whole bunch of different components to this, which I am very excited to give a try to.
Yeah, I think this looks, like, even visually, this is cool-ass pixel art.
The art in it, the original video that we saw of this made me not interested because it didn't look like this, but, like, this shot right here of this giant golem thing is something beyond what they were doing before. Whatever artist they've got on board to have fleshed out designs to make it way prettier is looking pretty extraordinary. Like, it did not look this pretty before. No,
they've been slowly... I follow one of the guys on Twitter, and they are just, like, they're updating small things, like, we revamped the treasure chest, and it, like, went from looking like a regular ass flat just, like, chest, and then they gave it this, like, nice chunky, like, 3D look. Yeah. Like, yeah, they're doing great work here. It looks
the animations have improved drastically already from what I've seen last time. The effects have improved really just drastically. God, the nice smooth motions for the martial arts.
Yeah, beautiful animations. How many people are working on this game? Holy shit!
Yeah,
I haven't seen this trailer.
No.
Sorry, people, we have a trailer on right now. Yeah. It's blowing my mind.
I haven't seen it. It didn't look nearly this good the last time.
Yeah, well, that looks incredible. I really hope this is I hope it comes out during a time where I have time to play it.
Even a summer doldrum would be nice. Again, let's start pushing some things into the second quarter because we've filled the first quarter.
People are still hesitant to do that. And the last one, it's just coming out 2017. They said they had a 2016
release
date in mind, and they've done a couple production updates on YouTube. But that's Ninja Theory's Hellblade. Yeah. It's been a couple years now since they've released their DMC game, and
saying it out loud will not sound as cool, but it's like this cave woman character who, they're really far behind.
No, see that's now.
Okay, there we go. Okay, that's better. Looks like it has a really, really cool, intricate combat system for a very one-on-one kind of feel, but it's all about, like, her going insane. Oh, yeah, stop doing concept art in front of me. And like she is slowly going insane and getting consumed by, like, this darkness of, like, an evil god or something.
Yeah, they're doing this whole thing with the theme of mental health and like. It sounds like an interesting concept to do over a game, right?
Yeah,
and
especially for an action game where, like, her violence is, making it worse for her.
Yeah, and it's like this really weird, foreboding world. And it's everything that's come out looks really incredible. I think these guys have a hit on their hands, but I anxiously await, like, their first real, like, trailer. You know what I mean?
Like something where someone's sitting down working. But they're doing, like, they got videos here of the people doing the mocap, doing the acting. It looks like they're really trying to capture it as best as possible. The animations and the work inside of the levels, the effects, and this is the other thing too about this company though, is that typically we're not used to seeing this level of fidelity and quality out of the studio. So now we're getting something that's looking kind of like quite high end. Yeah, and I think
personally, like I liked the last DMC game they did. I thought they did a good combat system. It wasn't as in depth as I wanted Devil May Cry game to be, but it was still enjoyable. My whole stance of that game has always been like, good game, not a good DMC game. Yeah. But it was a fun game in and of its own, and I'm hoping they kind of take the systems that I learned from that one, put it into this, and it will be this, like, looks like a cool story, because they didn't do Devil May Cry any favors with the story.
No.
Like, Devil May Cry has always been a goofy story, and they kind of, like, made it worse. Yeah. So that's it. That's everything we've looked at for coming up 2017. These games all look great. Yeah.
So thank you guys, everyone out there. I mean, we've crossed a year in our podcast, but this is us closing out the year.
Yeah.
The next podcast next week is going to be a best of
Another best of movies.
Yeah. And then you can also look forward to the best of Pens and Pixels itself. We'll be putting up our favorite.
Oh yeah,
bits.
no. Sorry. So next week is the movies, and then the week after is the best of the Pens and Pixels podcast.
Yeah.
So it's an edit of all our best moments.
Yeah.
Or we consider our best moments. You be the judge. You email us and tell us, no, that was a shitty moment. Why would you ever put that in a podcast?
We thought we were funny.
Yeah.
We're probably the worst judges of what we think are funny. Sometimes we're just too offensive. But look forward to all that, and then we'll close out the year. So it's been really great to kind of build out our first year with you guys. We want to get you guys more involved. Look forward to next year with lots of interviews with some interesting people.
Yeah.
And the next stage of the podcast.
That's right. If you want to find me, I'm at the CalG on Twitter. He's at Mike Kent Draws. Pens and Pixels across all social medias. Pick your poison. And if you want to email us and give us a shout, tell us what you think, answer some questions on the podcast.
Yeah.
We are meetpensandpixels@gmail.com.
Yeah, remember to share, and subscribe, and comment on SoundCloud or iTunes to give us a good rating. Please. That always helps us out. And of course, just anytime, communicate with us. Let us know what you guys like, what you want to hear about, what you want to hear us discuss. Should we be funnier? Should we be
That seems like a harsh
more
criticism.
funnier than that?
That seems like a harsh criticism. Just be funnier. I would be like, no. We're not on the fucking Joe Rogan comedy cast here.
We should probably actually do some bits. Maybe that.
No, this is about art and games.
Yeah.
If we're funny, it's incidental, and you better enjoy it. Have a good night, everybody.